Escapism. It's a concept that resonates with almost everyone. Whether it's through books, movies, video games, or in our case anime, we all have moments where we want to step away from the pressures of daily life and dive into a world where anything is possible. In these worlds, we can be heroes, explore uncharted territories, and live out our wildest dreams. But what drives this need to escape? And more importantly, what happens when we become too consumed by it? Anime, as a medium, is uniquely equipped to explore the themes of escapism. Its ability to create fantastical worlds and deeply personal narratives allows it to delve into why we seek to escape and what we find on the other side. Through vibrant visuals and compelling storytelling, anime offers a lens in which we can examine our own desires to step away from reality. But not all forms of escapism are created equally. While it can be a source of comfort and creativity, it can also lead to a dangerous detachment from the real world, where the lines between fantasy and reality blur and the consequences of our actions become harder to grasp. Some anime take us on a journey through these darker aspects, showing us the psychological toll that escapism can exact. In this video, I'll explore 3 animes that tackle the theme of escapism in profound and often unsettling ways. We'll begin with a series that transforms the dream of escaping into a fantasy world into a nightmarish cycle of death and rebirth. Then, we'll delve into one where a girl's desire for excitement leads to a reality-warping dilemma that could spell the end of the world as we know it. Finally, we'll look at a stark and deeply human portrayal of the dangers of extreme isolation, and the conspiracy theories that can arise when reality becomes too much to bear. These anime just don't entertain, they challenge us to think about why we want to escape in the first place, and what it means to truly confront the world around us. So, as we embark on this journey, ask yourself, what are you escaping from? And what happens when the fantasy ends? Re:Zero begins with what appears to be a familiar and almost cliched premise within the isekai genre. Subaru Natsuki, an ordinary young man with little direction in life, is suddenly transported to a fantastical world filled with magic, adventure, and the promise of a fresh start. This scenario taps into a universal desire to leave behind the monotony of everyday life and embark on a journey where we can reinvent ourselves, live out our dreams, and escape from the constraints of reality. Subaru's initial reactions are exactly what you might expect. He's filled with excitement and curiosity, eager to explore this new world and discover the possibility it holds. It's the ultimate escapist fantasy. No responsibilities, no expectations, just the freedom to be whoever he wants to be. For a brief moment, it seems like Subaru has stumbled into a world where he can finally be the hero of his own story. But it doesn't take long for Re:Zero to subvert this fantasy. Almost immediately, Subaru finds himself in danger, attacked by thugs and saved by a mysterious girl called Amelia. From this point, the series takes a dark turn. Subaru discovers that in this world, he has a unique ability. Each time he dies, he returns to a specific point in time, just like a checkpoint in a video game, forced to relive the events leading up to his death. This power, which he calls Return by Death, transforms the fantasy world from a place of adventure into a nightmare from which he cannot escape. At first, it seems Subaru's ability seems like a powerful tool, an opportunity to correct mistakes, to try a different approach, and ultimately to overcome the challenges he faces. It's a kind of escapism within escapism, where death is not the end, but a reset button. Yet, as Subaru soon learns, this power comes with a heavy price. Each time he dies, he experiences the pain and trauma of his death, and the memories of his suffering stay with him, even as the world resets. The psychological toll of Return by Death is one of the most compelling aspects of Re:Zero. Subaru's repeated deaths and resurrections are just not physical experiences, they're emotional and psychological traumas that accumulate over time. With each reset, Subaru's burdens grow heavier, as he is forced to carry the memories of his failures, the pain of his deaths, and the knowledge that no one else is aware of the looping timeline. He is alone in his suffering, trapped in a cycle that seems endless and inescapable. Subaru's journey through this world quickly becomes a descent into despair. The fantasy of escapism that initially seemed so appealing is shattered, replaced by the harsh reality of his situation. He's no longer the hero of a grand adventure, but a man struggling to survive, to protect those he cares about, and to find a way out of the nightmare he's trapped in. This transformation is a powerful commentary on the dangers of escapism and the psychological damage it can cause. As Subaru's suffering deepens, so does his understanding of the world around him. He begins to realize that his ability to reset the timeline, while seemingly powerful, is not a gift but a curse. Each time he dies, the reset undoes any progress he has made, forcing him to start over from the same point, with only his memories as a guide. This realization forces Subaru to confront the limits of his power and the futility of trying to escape the consequences of his actions. The cycle of return by death mirrors the psychological experience of trauma, where individuals are often trapped in a loop of reliving their traumatic experiences, unable to move forward. For Subaru, the fantasy world becomes a prison, where he is haunted by the ghosts of his past decisions and the knowledge that no matter what he does, he cannot truly escape the pain he's endured. This is a stark contrast to the typical isekai narrative, where the protagonist's journey is one of empowerment and triumph. In Re:Zero, the journey is one of survival and endurance, with Subaru constantly teetering on the edge of madness. However, Re:Zero is just not a story of suffering, it's also a story of growth and resilience. As Subaru grapples with the trauma of his experiences, he begins to change. His journey becomes less about escaping from his circumstances and more about confronting them. He starts to recognize the value of the connections he has made with others, and the importance of protecting those he cares about, even at great personal cost. This shift in perspective marks a turning point for Subaru, where he begins to see his powers not as a means of escape, but as a responsibility. Subaru's development is closely tied with his relationship with Emilia, the girl who saved him early in the series. His desire to protect her becomes a driving force behind his actions, pushing him to endure the pain of return by death and to find a way to change the future for the better. This relationship is emblematic of the broader themes of connection in Re:Zero. The idea that, even in the face of overwhelming suffering, the bonds we form with others can give us strength to keep going, and that these bonds are a type of escapism, an escape from the chains that hold us. Forming connections with others forces us to be more grounded, forces us to face the battles we have in reality. In this way, Re:Zero challenges the typical notion of escapism. While the fantasy world can initially appear to be an escape from the struggles of the real world, it ultimately forces Subaru to confront his deepest fears and insecurities. The series suggests that true growth and resilience comes from not avoiding the pain and failure, but from facing them head on, accepting the consequences of our actions and find the courage to move forward. Subaru's journey is a testament to the power of perseverance. Despite the seemingly endless cycle of death and rebirth, he continues to fight, driven by his desire to protect those he loves and to find a way out of the nightmare he's trapped in. His determination to keep going even when the odds are stacked against him is a powerful message about the importance of resilience in the face of adversity. Re:Zero offers a profound exploration of the themes of escapism, using the fantasy genre to delve into the psychological impact of trauma, the dangers of avoiding reality, and the importance of facing our fears and forming true connections. Through Subaru's journey, we are reminded that while the allure of escape may be strong, the true measure of our character lies in our ability to confront the challenges we face and to find meaning in the struggle. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya stands out as a unique exploration of escapism, not just because of its inventive storytelling, but also due to its complex protagonist, Haruhi Suzumiya. Haruhi isn't just an ordinary high school girl, she is a being with godlike powers, though she's completely unaware of them. Her desires and whims have the potential to reshape reality itself, making her an embodiment of the theme of escapism taken to its most extreme and literal conclusion. The series begins in a seemingly typical high school setting, where we are introduced to Haruhi through the eyes of the narrator Kyon. From the outset, it's clear that Haruhi is discontent with the mundane nature of her life. She's outspoken about her boredom with the ordinary, and is constantly seeking something more, a longing that resonates with the desire many people have to escape from the routine and the ordinary. This dissatisfaction drives her to create the SOS Brigade, a club with the supposed purpose of finding and experiencing the extraordinary, whether that be aliens, time travelers, or espers. At first glance, Haruhi's desire for excitement seems innocent enough, a reflection of youthful exuberance and the search for meaning in a world that often feels dull. However, as the series progresses, it becomes evident that Haruhi's quest for something extraordinary is not just a harmless fantasy. Unbeknownst to her, Haruhi's subconscious mind has the power to alter reality itself, bringing her fantasies to life. This means when she wishes for something exciting to happen, the world around her begins to warp to accommodate her desires, often with unintended and potentially catastrophic consequences. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya is how it explores the fine line between escapism and the manipulating of reality. Haruhi's dissatisfaction with the world leads her to create a new reality that reflects her desires, essentially escaping into a world of her own making. This raises important questions about the nature of reality and the dangers of unchecked power. What happens when the line between fantasy and reality blurs? And more importantly, what are the consequences when one person's desire for escape comes at the cost of everyone else's? Kyon, the narrator and Haruhi's reluctant companion, serves as the voice of reason throughout the series. He is painfully aware of the stakes involved in Haruhi's whims and often finds himself in the position of trying to prevent disaster by keeping Haruhi's powers in check. Through Kyon, the series presents a critical perspective on Haruhi's form of escapism. While Haruhi seeks to escape the ordinary, Kyon recognizes the value in stability and the dangers inherent in disrupting the balance of it. His role is crucial in grounding the series, reminding both Haruhi and the audience that the pursuit of excitement and novelty must be tempered with responsibility and an understanding of the potential consequences. One of the most notable examples of Haruhi's reality warping power occurs in the Endless 8 arc, where the same week of summer vacation repeats itself over and over and over for 600 years. Though the characters are unaware of the passage of time, Haruhi's subconscious desire to experience the perfect summer vacation traps her and her friends in an endless loop, with only vague memories of the previous iteration haunting them. This arc highlights the dangers of an unfulfilled desire for escapism. Haruhi's unwillingness to let go of her idealized vision of summer creates a literal loop from which the characters cannot escape. The repetition becomes a form of torment, stripping the experience of its joy and reducing it to a monotonous cycle. This scenario can be seen as a metaphor for the darker side of escapism, when the desire to escape becomes all-consuming. It can trap us in a cycle of dissatisfaction, where no experience is ever enough to satisfy our longing. Haruhi's attempt to escape the mundane results in a reality that is both stagnant and suffocating, illustrating the irony that the pursuit of endless excitement can lead to a new type of monotony. Another key moment in the series is the disappearance arc, which is shown in the movie The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, which I highly suggest you check out, where Haruhi unknowingly creates an alternate reality in which she and the SOS Brigade never existed. In this reality, Kyon finds himself in a world that is completely ordinary, exactly what Haruhi's always despised. Yet this new world is not the utopia of normalcy that one might expect. Instead, it is a world where Kyon feels an overwhelming sense of loss and disorientation. The absence of the extraordinary, embodied by Haruhi and the SOS Brigade, leaves Kyon, and by extension the audience, questioning the value of life without any sense of adventure or wonder. This arc delves into the existential implications of escapism. It asks what happens when the extraordinary is removed from our lives, forcing us to confront the reality we often take for granted. Kyon's struggle in the disappearance arc reflects the inner conflict that many people face, the desire for stability and normalcy versus the yearning for something more, something that breaks the monotony of everyday life. The resolution of this arc, where Kyon chooses to return to the original reality, with all its chaos and unpredictability, underscores the idea that while escapism is a natural human impulse, it is the balance between the ordinary and the extraordinary that gives life its richness. Haruhi Suzumiya's character is also a reflection of the societal pressures that drive individuals towards escapism. Her dissatisfaction with the mundane can be seen as a critique of modern society's tendency to undervalue the ordinary and to push individuals towards constant self-improvement, novelty, and excitement. Haruhi's extreme actions, whether they are creating time loops or rewriting a reality, are exaggerated responses to the pressure she feels to live an extraordinary life. The series suggests that this pressure, when taken to an extreme, can lead to a disconnect from the reality and an inability to appreciate the simple, everyday moments that make up the fabric of our lives. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya ultimately presents a nuanced exploration of escapism. On one hand, it acknowledges the human need to escape the ordinary, to seek out new experiences and to find meaning beyond the mundane. On the other hand, it cautions against the dangers of losing oneself in this pursuit, warning that when the desire to escape becomes overpowering, it can lead to unintended consequences that affect not only the individuals but also those around them. In the end, Haruhi's journey is one of self-discovery. While she never fully grasps the extent of her powers or the impact of her desires on reality, her interactions with Kyon and the other members of the SOS Brigade gradually teach her to find meaning in the ordinary moments of life. This growth reflects a broader message about the importance of balance, recognizing that while escapism can be a source of inspiration and creativity, it must be grounded in an understanding and appreciation of reality. This series leaves us with a thought-provoking question: how do we find the balance between the ordinary and the extraordinary of our own lives? And how do we navigate the tension between our own desires for escape and the responsibilities we have to ourselves and others? The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya doesn't offer easy answers, but it challenges us to reflect on our own desires and the impact they have on the world around us. And before we move on to our final show, could I ask everyone to like and subscribe please? It really does help out. And if there's any topics you want me to cover, leave a comment down below. Thank you. Welcome to the N.H.K, is a dark and poignant exploration of escapism, focusing on the life of Tatsuhiro Sato, a 22-year-old hikikomori or shut-in, who has isolated himself from society for nearly 4 years. The series delves into the psychological depths of Sato's condition, portraying his struggles with social anxiety, depression, and the overwhelming fear of the outside world. Unlike the fantastical escapism of ReZero or the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, Welcome to the N.H.K presents a more grounded and unsettling depiction of the consequences of extreme withdrawals from reality. Sato's journey begins with his profound disconnect from society. He spends his days holed up in his small apartment, sleeping odd hours, playing video games, and concocting elaborate conspiracy theories to rationalize his condition. The most pervasive of these is his belief that the shadowy organization, the N.H.K, is orchestrating a grand conspiracy to keep him and others like him trapped in their hikikomori lifestyle. This paranoid delusion serves as a coping mechanism for Sato, allowing him to externalize his fears and failures rather than confront the reality of his situation. The series does not shy away from depicting the grim reality of Sato's life. His apartment is a physical manifestation of his mental state, cluttered, dark, and suffocating. Sato's daily existence is a monotonous cycle of avoidance, where he struggles to find meaning or purpose. This portrayal of hikikomori life serves as a stark contrast to the more romanticized or adventurous forms of escapism seen in other anime. Here, escapism is not about entering a fantastical world or altering reality, but about retreating into the confines of one's mind, away from the pressures and expectations of society. One of the central themes in Welcome to the N.H.K is the idea that escapism, while initially providing a sense of safety and comfort, can quickly become a trap. For Sato, his reclusive lifestyle begins as a way to escape the overwhelming stress of university life and the fear of failure. However, what started as a temporary retreat has become a prison of his own making. The longer he remains isolated, the more difficult it becomes for him to re-enter society, creating a vicious cycle of avoidance and self-loathing. This cycle is made worse by Sato's deep-seated fear of judgment and rejection. His interaction with others are fraught with anxiety, and he often imagines that people are mocking or pitying him. These fears feed into his desire to escape, reinforcing his belief that it is safer to remain isolated than to risk the pain of social interaction. Sato's situation highlights a key aspect of escapism. The longer one remains in an escapist state, the more difficult it becomes to confront reality, as the fear of failure and rejection grows stronger with time. Enter Misaki Nakahara, a mysterious young woman who claims to have a plan to cure Sato from his shut-in lifestyle. Misaki presents herself as a savior figure, offering Sato the possibility of escape from his self-imposed prison. However, as the series progresses, it becomes clear that Misaki is dealing with her own issues, and that her relationship with Sato is far more complex than it initially appears. Misaki's motivations are rooted in her own insecurities and desire to feel needed, and her attempts to help Sato are as much about escaping her own loneliness as they are about saving him. The relationship between Sato and Misaki serves as a central narrative device for exploring the dynamics of dependency and codependency in the context of escapism. While Misaki seemingly offers Sato a way out of his isolation, their interaction often reveals the fragility of both their psyches. Misaki's project to cure Sato is as much an escape for her as it is for him, a way to avoid confronting her own loneliness and feeling of inadequacy. This interdependence between the two characters underscores the idea that escapism can be a shared experience, where individuals seek solace in one another's company while avoiding their own personal demons. Throughout the series, Sato is presented with multiple forms of escapism, each of which offers a different way to avoid the harsh realities of life. For instance, he is drawn into the world of online gaming, where he briefly finds a sense of accomplishment and community that eludes him in the real world. However, this virtual escape quickly turns into another form of entrapment, as Sato becomes addicted to the game, further isolating himself from reality. The allure of the online world is portrayed as a seductive but ultimately hollow form of escape, one that provides temporary relief but ultimately deepens Sato's sense of isolation and despair. Another significant aspect of the series is his portrayal of the consequence of escapism, not just for Sato but for those around him. The characters in Sato's life, his old high school friend Kaoru Yamazaki, his former crush Hitomi Kashiwa, and Misaki, each represent different ways in which people cope with their own struggles and the pressures of society. reality. Yamazaki, who has his own dreams of escaping into the world of game development, mirrors Sato's desires, but is also trapped by his insecurities and fears of failure. Hitomi, on the other hand, turns to conspiracy theories and self-destructive behavior as a way to escape her dissatisfaction with life. These characters are not just side stories, they serve to illustrate the broader societal issues of escapism and the various forms it can take. Welcome to the N.H.K suggests that escapism is not just an individual problem, but a symptom of deeper societal issues, pressures to conform, fear of failure, and the overwhelming demand of modern life. The series does not offer easy solutions, but instead presents a nuanced portrayal of the ways in which people try to cope with these pressures, often at great personal cost. One of the most powerful messages of Welcome to the N.H.K is the idea that while escapism may provide temporary relief, it ultimately makes worse the problems that it seeks to avoid. Sato's journey is one of painful self-discovery, where he is forced to confront the reality of his situation and the consequences of his choices. The series does not present a neat solution. Sato's path to recovery is fraught with setbacks and moments of despair. However, it does offer a glimmer of hope in the form of human connection. Through his interaction with Misaki, Yamazaki, and others, Sato begins to realize that he's not as alone as he once thought, and the first step towards escaping his self-imposed prison is to reach out to others. In the end, Welcome to the N.H.K presents a sobering but ultimately hopeful message about the dangers of escapism and the importance of confronting reality. It acknowledges the very real difficulties that come with re-engaging with the world, especially for those who have spent years in isolation. However, it also emphasizes the values of connection and the potential for personal growth that come with facing one's fears. Sato's journey is not one of miraculous recovery, but of gradual, often painful progress towards reclaiming his life. Welcome to the N.H.K stands as a powerful commentary on the modern condition, particularly in a society where the pressures to succeed and conform can drive individuals to seek refuge in isolation and fantasy. It serves as a reminder that while escapism can offer temporary solace, true fulfillment comes from confronting the challenges of life and finding meaning in the connections we make with others. The series challenges viewers to reflect on their own forms of escapism and to consider in which ways they can begin to re-engage with the world around them. As we've explored today, anime provides a unique lens through which we can examine the powerful allure of escapism and its impact on both individuals and society. From the fantasy-filled worlds of Re:Zero and the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya to the harsh, grounded reality of Welcome to the N.H.K, these shows offer different perspectives on what happens when we use fantasy and isolation as a means of avoiding the difficulties in life. At their core, these stories reflect very human desires, the wish to escape pain, find meaning, and seek control in a world that often feels uncontrollable. For Subaru in Re:Zero, this means facing endless death and resetting his mistakes, while for Haruhi, it's about creating a reality that bends to her whims. In Welcome to the N.H.K, we see the real-world consequences of shutting out reality entirely, and how damaging prolonged isolation and avoidance can become. But whether it's the thrill of fantasy or the harshness of real-life struggles, these anime remind us of one key truth: escapism, in all its form, is a temporary reprieve. The real growth, the real challenge, comes when we choose to face the world head-on. It's in confronting our fears, our loneliness, and our failures that we find true meaning and connection. Anime, with its diverse storytelling, allows us to safely explore these themes of escapism, perhaps even relate to the characters' struggles. But the stories also push us to think about our own lives. Are we running away from something? Are we stuck in a cycle of avoidance? Or are we trying to face our challenges, however difficult they may be? If there's one takeaway from these shows, it's that while escapism can provide comfort, it's no replacement for real-life growth. Whether it's through Subaru's relentless determination, Haruhi's evolving appreciation for the ordinary, or Sato's painful path towards re-entering society, the message is clear: life is difficult, but it's also worth engaging with.